Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Gabe Gonzalez. I am a senior here at Sul Ross State University studying for my bachelor's in history and as well as a minor in business. Hopefully, graduate soon, so I'm excited to be taking these classes and hopefully be finishing up in the fall. So I'm really excited about that. And this class is actually going to help me out quite a bit because I had never actually took this class before. And so being a senior, it was always a struggle for me to learn how to research stuff. That was always one of my weak points. I was good at it, but in a not knowing how to do it kind of way. So it was pretty interesting to dive into this subject and actually do some research and actually learn how to do it. So I'm excited about this class. So the first thing I started with was I wanted to ask some questions about what I wanted to look up and see where it was at and see what are the things that are important to me. Because I feel that if you look up things that are important to you, it's easier to research it and it makes it much easier to write about it as well too, because it's pretty hard writing about things that you're not interested in. It's especially hard for me because I just don't like doing what I'm not interested in. So it's pretty easy to figure that out. So some of the questions that I had that I came up was how did streaming affect music? And I came up with that question because I am in the music business, so streaming is a big part of what I do with music, and it's just the new way of there's no more, the radio is there, but it's nothing compared to what streaming can do for an artist or for music or anything like that. So that one was an easy question for me to come up with. Another question that I had is how did video and TV affect music? When you think back and you look at in the histories and the timelines and stuff like that, once TV came about, music was able to get to the masses. If you look at Elvis, you look at the Beatles, even back in the 70s and 80s, when MTV started and they had music videos, that's where you saw your music. That's where you came about it. You discovered it. You saw people live. You saw what the artists look like. So to me, that was kind of something important. I think would be fun to look at. So that's why I picked that one. And it has a big effect on it. So I wanted to dive deeper into knowing what it was like and how it affected it in certain ways. And another question I had, I'm a big fan of Tejano music, big fan of all music, but I also love Tejano a lot. Grew up with it being from South Texas. That was something that I grew up listening to. So that was something that was just popped in my head, and I thought that would be interesting to look at because I don't really think anybody has ever really dived fully into where Tejano music is or how it is nowadays. There's been some stuff written about it, but nothing on a grand scale. So I thought that would be something interesting to look at. Where I started, as you can see, I started right here at Google. To me, Google was the best place to start because you can just type in anything and see what pops up. And with Google, it's not about just looking at the top, you know, 5 or 6 things that pop up. That just means they have a good Google rating and their SEO is good. So if you dive deep and you go deeper into the other pages and stuff like that, you can find different things. And sometimes when you click on those things, it'll lead you to other things as well too. So Google was the first place that I went to. That was a pretty easy decision of why I picked Google because it's perfect to search things. I mean, that's what it's for, search engine. So I started looking, I just typed in important events in American history, and there was a timeline came up, and of course, it had a timeline article of arts and entertainment. So that automatically piqued my interest and helped, especially with how TV affected, how TV and video affected music. But then once I started diving deeper in, I went to some other websites such as loc.gov. So they had an article about TV and stuff like that, and also had articles about streaming and music. I also found a New York Times article that was written pretty recently, so that was pretty easy to look into as well too. New York Times had articles as well. This JSTOR, I believe, I'm not sure of the website, but that was one of the websites that I found that had numerous articles, and a lot of the articles I found were articles on streaming. I found way more stuff on that than anything. So those were some of the things that I used to begin searching for my topics and stuff like that. Some of the avenues I picked and I started going into were, Rolling Stone magazine. It's a magazine that's been around for decades and decades, and they always have great articles in there about music and the business and things like that. So that's an that's the avenue that I picked. I also searched Google for other articles, And I also stumbled upon rocksbackpages.com, which is an online library of music and journalism. So those were some of the avenues that I picked, and they were pretty good. I found some great articles on things, and moving on, we had the dead ends. I didn't really run into any dead ends. The only real dead ends that I really ran into, just because I think there's not a lot of information that's never really been done, was Is Tejano Music Dead? So that was one of the dead ends I hit. But the other ones, I found quite a bit of articles on it, which led me to choose my final decision of how did streaming affect music. For one, like I said earlier, I'm in the music business, so that's something that easily piqued my interest that I want to know more about to do my job. And streaming is such a big part of artists' lives and musicians' lives and stuff like that. So it was easy to pick that one. And there was also just a boatload of more information on it as well too. So knowing that, it was easy for me to make my decision on how did streaming affect music. So thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy it. Have a good night. Peace.